I'm Catherine Spitz-Cohan, Executive Director of Film Pittsburgh, and I'm excited today to talk to Isaac Cherem from the film Leona. So hopefully you've all watched that film, and Isaac, welcome. I like to start these interviews by asking, where were you born and how did you get into filmmaking?
Hey, Catherine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I was born in Mexico City, 1992. I went to Jewish school my whole life, and not only Jewish school. I went to a specific Jewish school from people who are descendants of Aleppo Jewish immigrants, which is very specific, but it was a huge school. And the thing there is that the regular thing, or what happens normally, is people go or guys go to business school or some kind of business, and women go to design school or something related to that, and they just follow the rules and get married, have kids, and send their kids to the same school, and on and on. But even though I thought for some time to go to business school because that's just the norm, at some point the theater teacher saw me on the hallway, and he was like, "You should come to the auditions for my play." And I was like, "I don't know, but I'll go." And I, from that moment, I fell in love with theater. I fell in love with acting, with performing, with the stage, with fiction, and I acted in a lot of school plays through my last years of high school. And that feeling was so big inside me that I was like, how am I gonna be able to feel this again and again and again in my life? Like, I have to do something related to this because it makes me feel so good. But at the same time, how am I going to make money if I want to be a theater actor? And how am I going to feel all these expectations that are not only family but community wise, of having all this amount of money, to have this lifestyle, to have a wife, to be like, there's no way to be a theater actor and do all that. So I thought, Steven Spielberg, he's rich. So I thought, I'm gonna be a film producer or director or something. And I thought, every time I go to the movies, I see the credits roll, and there's so many people. I'm sure I can be one of those.
Exactly, one of them, right?
Yeah.
Great. It's a wonderful story, and I'm glad that you followed your youthful dream because it's so important, especially now when we're all locked inside our homes. I mean, films and independent films, of course, are so important and have such interesting messages. Let's talk a little bit about Leona. I know that you co-wrote it with the lead actress. My question is, how did you meet? How did you find her? Because clearly it wasn't, or maybe it was, you tell me, was it just a casting call? How did the two of you meet?
Well, before becoming a director, I used to be an assistant director. And as an assistant director, I had just made a film called The Incident. And one of the lead actresses was Nailea Norbind, which is Nayan's mom. And I got along very well with her, and it was fun to be around her, and we just became friends. And then the idea for the story for this film kind of hit me because I was in the middle of a relationship with my Jewish friend and my non-Jewish friend and roommate. And so I was kind of seeing the story from both sides, and it was just very unfair to me, and I kind of wanted to say something about it. And I just started writing the screenplay, and at some point I told one of my friends about this story, and she said, "Why don't you cast Nayan to do it?" And I knew Nayan because I've seen her in some theater, because I knew her mom, and I had even talked to her, just like, "Oh yeah, I did with this film with your mom and whatever." But it was so obvious to me that she would be perfect for the role when my friend told me, you should cast her, that I was like, of course she has to be Ariela, even though she's not Jewish, even though she 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 she's from a different kind of, she's got a different background, a different upbringing, very cultural, art related, theater related, and all that. So I sent her the script. I had a decent, or what I thought was a decent draft of the script. I sent it to her because at the time she was living in New York. She was actually doing a film in Dominican Republic, and she read the script. She liked it, and she replied, "I love Ariela and her silences, and I want to do it." And I was really happy that she accepted. And then we had a meeting through a video conference, and we kind of started talking about the character and whatnot, and what she should do, and how, and where does she come from, how does she think, and all that. And then she came to Mexico for the holidays, and we met, and we went to the theater, to the movies together, and we started bouncing ideas of each other more frequently, and we became friends. And at some point, while bouncing ideas of each other, I said, "Why don't we write the screenplay together? I think you have a lot to contribute to the film, and I think
What year
it would
was this,
be."
Isaac? What year
I'm
was it?
sorry.
What year?
That was 2000. That day that I asked her to write the screenplay together was 2017, early
Mhm.
2017. And so we wrote the screenplay together. We threw away what we had, and we started from scratch, and we kind of combined our ideas, our thoughts, our perspectives on life, on youth, on coming of age, and we wrote for a year together, through Skype, because she was in New York.
Who knew that this would be our
Yeah,
life? Yeah.
incredible. And I think that was the best decision ever, because what I had was not like near good as the final script was, with her contribution and
Mhm.
her perspective and point of view, as everything that she's in
She
wherever she
was
grew up.
she was so mesmerizing in the film. Mesmerizing. I thought she was incredible.
And that's the same way she was at in the screenplay. If you think of the actress that plays that part so well, because she understands the character and what she's going through, and with her look, there's emotions that can tell you how good the her contribution to the screenplay
Mhm.
was. It was,
Mhm.
she put in a lot of the emotions, a lot of the thoughts, the dialogues.
Mhm.
It was just so good to have her.
How is the reception to the film? I could see how my previewing team, those of us here that, view the film and then weigh in on whether we should play it or not, for the most part, really scored it very highly and loved it. So, but you can see how just because there's controversy in the film, that there would be, and also it's art. So if you show a movie to 10 people, you're going to have 10 different responses to it. So that's expected. But I'm curious to know what the response was from, um, you know, your Jewish community.
Well, while I was writing the screenplay, I only thought about them as the audience. I only thought, I want to make a film for my community in Mexico, to tell them something that I think is unfair, to tell them something that I am angry with, that I think should be different. And that's the reason I thought it has to be as realistic as possible, because in the end I'm talking about us, and if it doesn't look real to them, they're not going to listen to me. And 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 I knew that the response would be mixed. Especially, I knew it would cause a lot of controversy. I knew, because I was saying stuff that I knew my community didn't want it to be a conversation out loud in public. And I think it happened exactly that. I mean, the film, the first response from the community was that the programmer, non-Jewish programmer for the Jewish Mexican Film Festival, told me this has to be the inaugural film. And I was like, yeah, of course. How many other Mexican Jewish films you have every year? And so he said, send me a link so I can send it to the board of, and we can discuss it. And I sent him the link, and then the director of the festival came to my office and said, we cannot play your film. I am so sorry. I like it, but it's very risky. We might lose Jewish sponsors that think it's not okay to show this film. And so I tweeted about that, and then the newspaper kind of made a whole note about it, and it only got bigger and worse as the controversy grew. And then just every Jew in the community was curious about the film,
I wanted to
even if
see it.
yeah, even if it was to criticize it. And what I have found is that older men are more uh, offended by the film than anybody else, and of course it makes sense. It's the patriarchy is, in the end, they get more benefits from the patriarchy than anybody else, and like something that is shaking their modus operandi is kind of something that they don't like, and that they think is risky for the health of the community. But for the other part, a lot of I found a lot of young people and women, especially, that have contacted me in a very nice and thankful way of being brave enough to say this out loud, the way in a way it was needed, or some all these messages. I still receive almost every day messages from people from the community that want to thank me for being brave enough to just talk about these issues that they think are necessary.
And
So I'm glad.
oh, well, so are we. Thank you. And this film has played many, many, many Jewish film festivals. We were going to show it last year, but of course had to cancel. So this is already, we did not, we had selected a lineup last year, and we didn't bring all of those films to this year because there's new films that we wanted to include, but we did include yours. Um, so I'm glad to hear that there was positive response. For me, I responded to the film. I think you did a wonderful job. I felt the love in that family, even though it was really difficult. And I know that those type of challenges exist in many families. I felt it was universal, but I saw the love and I saw the rituals, and I thought it was beautiful. And you did a great job of interweaving all of that. So I'm glad that there were people. I know that it's probably hardest to show it in your own community, and I can understand that perhaps the Mexico City Jewish Film Festival would feel somewhat uneasy about it. But how many Jewish film festivals has it played around the world?
Yeah, I would say probably all of them.
Well,
Yeah, the film has gone all around the world, and it's crazy to think that the last stop was in Mexico City, because now it's still playing in theaters here in Mexico City. So
Wow.
and it kind of, it was crazy to see the film not being able to play in Mexico City at the Jewish Mexican Film Festival, but play all around the world, and in the end, just playing as a regular film, and
Right.
people
Yeah.
that are interested are going to see it, and
Yeah.
it's still there. It exists.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting part of running a nonprofit that you have to think about who your donors are. I guess there are people that would be offended by it, but there are people that would be offended by any of the films that we as programmers, I mean, could be offended by any of the films. So anyway, thank you for making the film. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to show it. Can you share with the audience? Is there anything you're working on now that we should be on the lookout for? What are you working on now? Were you able to do anything during COVID besides Zoom interviews with Jewish film festivals all around the world?
Yeah, I actually I when I premiered this film, I thought this is the moment where I can stop my Jewish point of view, because I want to be just a universal director,
Yeah.
and do any theme that I like to, and I don't want to touch Jewish themes anymore, because I don't want, put in a box of that Jewish director. But then the pandemic came, and 2 months before, in January of last year, my mom revealed to me that the way that she got pregnant of me was through a medical experiment, and because they wanted to have a boy so bad, because the pressure was big, because they've already had two daughters, and the pressure to have a boy for my mom was too big, that she accepted to be part of an experiment in order to have more chances of having a boy. And so the pandemic came, and quarantine started, and my mind started spinning with it, with, what, how does this make me, what is this, how do I relate to this, and why did they have this pressure, where does that come from, and how does that affect me, how does that affected me in my childhood, in my early years, and now, and kind of reflecting in that, in talking about it in therapy, made me want to ask my parents deeply about this. And the quarantine was the perfect excuse, because I didn't have to see them face to face. And I just said, turn on your camera. And I turned off my camera, and I just asked some questions that that bring that shed a light into why they were pressured, why they think that way, and it goes way back, and it talks about this family, specific family, because I asked my parents, and also my older sisters, because how it was for them to to be a part of that, and then all of a sudden the boy comes, and he's the one that's important, and you don't matter anymore, and it was crazy. So I wanted to see what was in there, and I made a documentary that
During COVID.
during COVID, yeah, which is about my family, but also about this community, and also about just patriarchy in general, and how it affects all of us in extremely deep and historical ways.
Wow.
So that's a documentary that I'm done with, and that that I will have a world premiere later this year. It's called A Documentary About My Penis, because it's like, why? Because it's like, why did the whole story is about
Right.
having a baby with a penis, because we
Right.
now know that there's not only two genders, and they didn't know what was going to happen, what it meant. So what it meant was a penis, a
Mm.
baby with a penis, to get this pressure off their shoulders. And yeah, so it's like I can't run away from Jewish themes. It's what I am made of. Is what
Yeah.
my childhood was. It's all that I am. It comes from there. So it's better to embrace it and to go all the way in. So I touch similar themes that in Leona, but in a very personal, intimate, familiar way.
Yeah. We have a visitor behind you
Yeah,
who is very sweet.
she wants to go eat.
Yeah. I can't hear her. I could just see her.
Yeah, no, she's
Anyway,
not saying
yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I can't wait to see that film. And please stay in touch with us and continue to share your work with us. It sounds fascinating. And I want to just thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. To our Film Pittsburgh JFilm audience, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.